Hello everybody, welcome back to a brand new episode of F1 22, my team career mode here on the channel. I hope you're all having a great day. Today we kick things off in the Hungarian GP, and you'll notice that we're jumping straight into the action here in qualifying. Very simple reason why. I forgot to hit the record button at the beginning of practice. Bit of an embarrassing moment there to kick off this episode, but I hope you're all doing well. We are here in the wet conditions in qualifying in Hungary, as this was on the new update with the game, so it actually messed around, I think, a little bit again with my R&D, so we're actually a little bit further down the order again as Trackhouse with some more work to do going into this summer break as well, by the way. And you might notice a bit of a break in between this episode and the last episode, which was like a week ago at this point, and that is done completely on purpose. I actually decided to record ahead and get 2 or 3 episodes made in advance, so that way I can actually get this going on a daily to every other day basis, I should say, instead of more or less when I can get it out. So that will allow me to have a lot better scheduling with the F1 career mode of videos. So that's why that happened. Just to let you guys know here now, as we are in these wet conditions in Hungary, and it's supposed to as well rain in the GP. So and it looks like it's going to be majority on intermediate or wet compound tires versus being on a dry compound tire. It looks like on the start of the race we will be on the dry compound tire. However, but you can see here struggling in qualifying. I was the slowest car, but I made a lot of laps here in Q1 in this car. This was like lap 3. Yeah, we're on lap 3 here, and we've gotten faster so far every lap we've run, and we're just getting faster and faster. That's a trend I always have here with the intermediate compound tires when it comes to wet weather qualifying, is I get faster lap after lap, and that was exactly being showcased here. 9/10 of a second up here as we came through to the end of our third lap. Tailport chair had come through to clock in ahead of us, but as we come through that final hairpin here, we're going to cross the line, and we might go better than Porsche this time. Yes, we do, but better than nobody else. So I was down to P20, P21 for Porsche. It was not looking good for Trackhouse here. Now, as there's been so many gains lately, I thought this was going to be a track where we could kind of shine. Thankfully, our time did not get invalidated right there. Now, 0.6 of a second better here again as we were closing in to the line out of that final hairpin. 7.5 tenths, nearly 8 tenths up, and we still don't beat anybody. Okay, well, let's try for a 5th time, lap 5, and we continue. We had about 12 laps to fill in the car to start the run, so obviously it's going to get faster as the run goes on, as we get less feel in this Trackhouse machine. But as you can see, again, 9/10 of a second again better. We are continuing to find a lot of time and get comfortable, as we were now a full second up here on our last lap time. To the line again. Will we at least beat somebody other than my teammate? Yes, we will. We go up to P19. Hold on, we're not done. Lap 6. We find another 0.3 of a second in the car, and we're going to come through this final hairpin here on the 6th attempt, and this is finally going to be the one that puts us up in the top 15, P13. However, I would not go faster after that, and unfortunately, we would still get knocked out of Q1. It was still P21 and P20 for my teammate of Tailport Chair. The only driver we beat was the Lance Stroll. So after all of that hype and all that hard work right there of running like 6 complete laps, it got us absolutely no reward. We start P20, P21 on the grid.
Welcome to Budapest once again for another round of Formula One action. Historically, a good race for first-time victories, with Button, Hill, Alonso and Heikki Kovalainen all reaching the top step of the podium for the very first time right here. 14 corners then for our drivers to navigate at the 2.7-mile Hungaroring today. It's 6 lefts and 8 rights around a lap here, with average speeds in the region of 120 miles per hour. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. What a qualifying yesterday for George Russell. He'll start today's race from pole position, and Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Leclerc, Perez, Valtteri Bottas and Norris, Sainz, Ocon, Vettel and Yuki Tsunoda, Ricciardo, Gasly, Max Verstappen, they've taken a grid penalty, and Mick Schumacher, Oscar Piastri, Magnussen, Alex Albon and Guan Yu Zhou, Latifi, Théo Pourchaire, Stroll and Golden Boy. And now it's time to head down to the track. And with me today, of course, is Natalie Pinkham. Let's talk about Golden Boy. Looks like they have a tough race in store today, as grid penalties from changing power unit components has forced them further down the field.
But on the bright side, at least those fresh components can help them maintain the power they need to come through the pack. I expect to see them take a much more aggressive approach today to make up for that compromised start.
Ready to go, lights out here from Hungary now as we take a bunch of fuel out of the car. You can see the conditions right there on the forecast, so it looks like a little bit of light rain, and then there might be a period of heavy rain as well that we might have to put on the wet compound tire. But you can see I started on the medium. I thought about starting on the soft, but based off the forecast, I thought that the medium might be the better way to go, and the soft might not quite make it to the period of time where it rains, so that's why I went with the medium compound tire. Lance Stroll, however, he's on the softs. You notice we start behind him, so I had to take a grid penalty. I swapped out a few parts in the car, so that's why we are here at the bottom of the grid now as we are ready to go. Lights out. George Russell, Lewis Hamilton, front row lockout. They've been strong lately with the Mercedes team, and we're lights out, and we are underway from the Hungarian GP, and it's George Russell this time who's not getting overtaken by his teammate of Lewis Hamilton on the start like in the last episode in France, and he leads the way down into turn 1. Perez sends one up the inside of the two Ferraris of Leclerc, and Sainz as well, Bottas as well, as Max Verstappen a bit of a ways down the order along with his teammate of Sebastian Vettel, but there you see Bottas trying to hold his own over Perez, and he does just that. He holds on to that third and final spot on the podium. Hamilton in second behind Russell. Hamilton won in the last episode after overtaking, like we said, Russell into turn 1, and that was the key moment of that whole Grand Prix. As you can see, everybody else now settling in here. Nobody actually ran into each other. Nobody got any damage here on their front wings or anything on this opening start, so everything worked out pretty well here now, as I was still in dead last year, just like where I started. But there is George Russell looking for, I think, what would be his second win on the season. Remember, he won all the way back earlier in the season at the Australian Grand Prix. After the two Ferraris got caught up battling each other, Russell was able to take the opportunity, pass them both, and keep them both behind him to the end of that race now, as he's looking for win number 2. Hamilton, he's got a couple wins this season as well with Imola, France as well, and like we said, Mercedes really starting to pick things up, and you know that's happening when they lock out completely the front row for the last 2 Grand Prix here, France and Hungary now, as everybody comes through out of that final hairpin down this front straight away now as we were settling in P20. And I don't know what was going on with the car. I was comfortable in this car. This is one of my favorite tracks to drive in this F122 game, but it just, something wasn't right. The pace wasn't there in the car. I turned the AI all the way down to 100 for this video, and it was just still, I don't know what it was. I just couldn't quite keep the pace with the AI that I was able to showcase last season on the same difficulty. Now on lap 3, you can see though the rain had started to fall, and actually I was now starting to reel in the cars in front of me, so that was actually kind of promising. It took me a few laps, but we were getting closer. But just as we had the DRS enabled, 1 lap later the DRS is disabled because the rain was falling down a lot quicker than expected. Here's Charles Leclerc now trying to get a position back here on Sergio Perez, who's not going to give it up easy, I would imagine now, as they're going to be wheel to wheel, side by side now through the DRS zone. At this point, DRS was still open. This was moments before the DRS was disabled, and you can see Leclerc and Perez still wheel to wheel. This is shades of Hamilton Alonso here back in 2021, but Leclerc would get the position, and look how quickly the conditions would deteriorate. By the time we come through to a lap later, lap 5, you can see the track was for sure getting wet, and a bunch of drivers are coming into the pit lane. I decided to stay on the track because my teammate at Portier was only about 3 seconds ahead of me, so we would have had to spend some time waiting. However, I would regret that decision immediately, because look at the next lap. The track was soaking wet. It was terrible. The conditions were miserable, and we were hanging on for dear life. Now, fortunately, we would be able to hang on, but we were one of about, I think, 7 or 8 cars that had stayed out on the track, and we are going to pay the price, because I already knew we were going to be last here when we came back out on the track still, which is already where we were, but we're going to have quite a gap between myself and P21 if we even want to get back into the middle of this race or into the mix of this race. So actually completely perfect there on the pit entry, 50 miles per hour, as we're going to come in and put on the intermediate compound tires. So a bit of a frustrating race so far. We haven't really had the pace that we needed, and now we've made a big mistake that really takes us out of the running currently, unless we put one heck of a pace down here on this intermediate compound tire, because look at the gap between myself and P21 of Alex Albon. Lance Stroll up there in P20, it's about 3 seconds to them, so it is going to be difficult for us to really be able to do anything for the rest of this Grand Grand Prix unless we get some luck on our side with the safety car. Now, when it comes to drivers having mechanical failures, usually when it's raining on intermediate or wet conditions, we will see a safety car a lot more likely when there is a mechanical failure for a car, so that could play a bit of a role in helping us here throughout this Grand Prix. Lap 10, George Russell 2.2 seconds ahead of Valtteri Bottas. Look at this, Carlos Sainz really benefited from that whole mess there with everybody pitting for the intermediate compound tires. He's up into third place. Leclerc and Hamilton, they suffer. They're down to P7, P8 as Perez back up to fourth. Vettel into the top 5. Yuki Tsunoda up there into P6 as well. Tsunoda with the win, by the way, this season still. So nice season he's been putting together as his teammate Pierre Gasly actually currently struggles in P16. As you can see, yellow flags. It's Zhou Guanyu. He's actually spun on the exit of turn 1, so that allowed me to actually make my first pass of the race. Let's go. We passed somebody, they crashed, but we were able to finally pass somebody, so it just had to require them being stopped on the circuit. So there's one positive for us now, is we were actually reeling in Albon and Stroll here in these closing up on the halfway point of this race. But you can see the rain was starting to get quite a bit heavier. Look at this, lap 16. This rain is barreling down on us here in the Hungarian GP, and I knew we were just moments away from the wet compound tire switch over, and sure enough, it would kick off here lap 16, and I would decide to remain on the circuit for another lap again, because I saw quite a few people still stay out, and well, once again, I regretted it. We would severely suffer here on this extra lap coming into the pit lane now, and you can see Zhou Guanyu, who had spun, was now all over my rear diffuser here. That's how much I struggled on this extra lap. So not only have we struggled on pace here today, we have now made 2 mistakes that are going to be 2 major setbacks for this Trackhouse car, and it looks like we might lose out to our teammate again, Uptail Porcher, who's really stepped it up lately here as our teammate Roll now, as we're going to put that wet compound tire on. We're at least ahead of Zhou Guanyu still as we exit our pit box. Actually, I think we leave with more of a gap than when we entered against him now, as he's not as close. But P21, this has not been our Grand Prix so far. It's just not gone our way. We need a miracle. We need a safety car, obviously. That's the only thing that can bring us back into the mix at this point here, lap 21, and just continuing to try and hold off Zhou, who's just behind us now. Albon was 5.5 seconds ahead as this rain continues to just barrel down on this circuit here. It was absolutely pouring. Carlos Sainz in the McLaren out of the session here, actually, in the Hungarian GP. He was in the top 3. There's the safety car that we needed right there, and he actually blew or had a mechanical failure, and actually Perez ran into the back of him and lost his front wing. It got torn off, debris flying everywhere. That would bring out the safety car. Perez obviously is going to have to pit for repairs as Sainz pulls over. He is out of the Grand Prix, and everybody had stayed out on the racetrack, so I came in, put on an extra set of wet tires. I said I'll take any potential advantage I can find, maybe a little bit fresher wet tire, but then I'm realizing the rain is letting up. Look at this. We come to lap 24. We are way behind the field, but look how much the rain has let up. I said, you know what, we got to come in for the intermediate compound tire now, because no one's come in for that, so that's an opportunity. However, we've just made another mistake, because now we are not going to have enough time to catch up to the field, and we have a pit error right there, so we spend extra time on the pits. 4.9 seconds for pit stop race. What in the world has happened here in this Grand Prix? It has been absolutely terrible for us. It's been mistake after mistake. The pace has struggled. Everything's gone wrong. George Russell is one of the few drivers with things that haven't gone wrong for him. He's still leading this race here as we are ready for the restart. But look at this. As we were coming to lap 27, you can see on the track map on the bottom left how far behind the field we were because of the extra stop for the intermediates. We pit for the wets. We pit for the intermediates. Now we hope that we hit that crossover period in time to where this rain's letting up. It is going to hit that crossover period, so hopefully the pace difference is so significant that we can pull up the comeback drive of our career here and get a heck of a finish out of it. George Russell, though, leading the way down into turn 1. He has been dominant all race long, and it's going to be so hard to pass him unless he makes a big mistake in these wet conditions here. But you can see lap 28, less than 10 laps to go in this Grand Prix, 5.7 seconds between myself and Zhou Guanyu. But now we had hit that crossover to where it was a significant change in favor of myself. 4.4 seconds to the Alfa Romeo on lap 29, but we only have 6 laps to go once we cross the line one more time, so not a lot of time. But here we are coming to 5 laps to go, and now 1.1 seconds between myself and Joe, as well as Albon. 1.5 ahead, 2.2 to Lance Stroll. We know when we get to these drivers, we have to get the elbows out. We can't wait around if we want to gain positions here, because we are very much so limited on time with 4 laps. Here we go, coming to the end of lap 31, and now we're all over the back of Joe. go as we're going to lunge one up the inside here, an aggressive move, and actually the Williams of Albon misses the braking zone there, and that allows me to be alongside him. A little bit of contact actually with Alex Albon as we come through the hairpin, actually get a warning for a collision with Alex now, but we pass him around the outside. There we go, 2 positions gained right there. We're already running better than we have all Grand Prix long in P19. That's pretty embarrassing, but still nonetheless a positive right there as we try to put these wet weather conditions and these wet compound tires that the AI are on in an advantage to myself in the intermediates. A lunge up the inside now of Lance Stroll. We kind of run him out of room a little bit there. No contact though up to P18, all over the back of Piastri as we're coming to 2 laps to go, and he leaves the space and he actually gets a little bit caught off guard from myself. We take P17. Next up, fellow Canadian Nicholas Latifi here as we head down into turn 2. A lunge up the inside. He shuts the door though. I have to wait for the right opportunity, and that would be right here through the sweeping right-hander, and we're going to go the long way around the outside of Latifi, but it's not over yet. He's going to continue to stick his nose up the inside into the chicane. He goes deeper into the corner. I actually cut the corner. I'm surprised I don't get a warning or anything for that. They actually let me get away with it. Valtteri Bottas out of the session here, coming to the final lap of this Hungarian GP. Russell has a massive lead at this point, but Bottas had a mechanical failure. He was running so good all race in the podium position. He is now out. That moves us up one more spot, P15, and there you see 14th, 13th, 12th, Gasly, Pourchaire, Magnussen as well. Gasly slips and slides on those wet tires, and we are all over the rear diffuser, but he has a lot more of a getaway than I did right there, so we're not actually going to get him here into turn 1, so it's going to take this whole stretch through turn 1 down towards turn 2 before we get an opportunity, but I'm expecting him to slip and slide and struggle again. There it is right there. He's struggling so hard on grip. Here we go with a move potentially on Gasly for that 14th position. What a drive we have had here in these closing moments. A big send into the corner, and we're going to be able to get the spot there from Gasly. Now P14 through the chicane in the second sector, and we're all over the back of our teammate at Pourchaire. He's well off the pace there compared to myself. I lunge one up the inside, a bit of an aggressive move on a teammate, but we make it work into 13th place. George Russell would come through to win the Hungarian GP over Sebastian Vettel with a great drive today in second place, still seeking that first Red Bull win of the season for him. Lewis Hamilton rounds it out for the podium in 3rd place, and we're all over the back of Magnussen. The rain has stopped at this point. We get one more opportunity. We're going to send it around the outside in the final corner. It's going to be a drag race here to the line. Who's going to get here first? It's going to be us barely at the line, and I think we just had a P12 result here. Yes, it is P12. What a comeback drive. Unbelievable scenes here after a rough first 3 quarters of a race. Driver of the day. Let's head to the podium for the celebrations. Unbelievable scenes in Hungary.
It's victory in Budapest then, and what a victory it is after an incredible Grand Prix. Natalie Pinkham, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
Well, they certainly stood out as a driver with tons of confidence on the track. I think their ability to keep their cool, even during some of the more hectic parts of the race, meant they were able to capitalise on the mistakes of other drivers, giving them the opportunity to make their way to the top spot with ease.
Well, Mercedes are on top form once again after an excellent race weekend. It's great to see them up on that podium once again.
George Russell with the victory there. Hamilton and as well as Sebastian Vettel joining him on the podium. So very cool to see Vettel and Hamilton on a podium together again. Very cool sight actually now, as that used to be a familiar sight, you know, years ago, but not something we see anymore with Sebastian Vettel obviously at Aston Martin. And unfortunately in real life, Vettel only has a few GPs remaining in his career, and then I don't know who my favorite driver is going to be next year yet. Actually, I need to find somebody new apparently, but I have no absolutely idea who it's going to be. But there you see the finishing order on your screen. Yuki Tsunoda with a heck of a run there in 4th place again, impressing. Tsunoda has had an impressive season too at times here now, as we did beat our team at a Pourchaire by the end of that GP. You see Bottas and Sainz there with the DNFs, and let's take a look at the points, because Max Verstappen was only 9th place, the World Championship leader. 9th place, that's going to close it up even more, and he's been falling lately, and Hamilton is now 1 complete race behind him. Leclerc 48 points, 63 3 for Russell, matching his car number. Bottas a ways behind with that failure. So Hamilton's the closest, but Leclerc maybe not write him off quite yet. But Hamilton is on a charge here going into the summer break. Red Bull has a 10-point lead over Mercedes in the constructors, and Ferrari is not far behind, nearly 40 points now, as we are actually looking post-race here, making some upgrades, rushing an upgrade to hopefully get it in time for the end of the summer break going into Spa for the Belgian GP. So that does it. We have made it to the summer break. Now the final push for Season 2 kicks off, where it's so important because it's all about setting ourselves up for Season 3, as we have been continuing to make gains, and we're setting ourselves up to be a serious contender in Season 3 for, in my opinion, consistent points and maybe some podiums as well. You never even know. Maybe a freak race win, but that's all about Season 3. We still have to finish out Season 2. If you guys enjoyed, you know what to do. I'll see you guys in the next one after the summer break for the Belgian GP. Have a great day, everybody.